I'm Dave Borden with Rent Screener. Thanks for joining us today. The next section of Get Ready to Rent, behind the scenes with a real property manager, we're going to talk about income verification and income to rent ratios. George, this is George Trombley from Blackbird Realty in Las Vegas. George has been in business for 49 years. How many tenant screenings, George?
Well, over 10,000. Yeah,
Okay.
I've been property management for over 49 years, but in business here in Las Vegas for over 25.
Okay, more than 10,000 tenant screens. So George knows a thing or two about what to look for and what you're going to go through when you're looking to rent a property. One of the most important things, George, for George is collecting rent. George, who do you work for again?
Work for the owner of the property.
And what is the number one thing that the owner wants you to do above all other things?
He wants to get his rent each month so he can pay his mortgage each month.
That's correct.
And he relies upon me to do that.
So in order for George to get his rent, he needs to make sure that you're able to pay for the rent on a property. George, what do you look for when you're selecting a tenant when it just comes to their income?
Yeah, we're looking for 2.5 to 3 times the amount of rent each month that is spendable. If they've got too much debt on there that they're paying judgments off, or they're paying off secured loans, and they don't have 2.5 times the income to cover that, that's a flag for us, a red flag, to look more into that.
And do you count the combined incomes of all the applicants? Or?
Yes, we do. It's usually typically traditional is a man and a wife, and they both got jobs. It's fine. If there's going to be a roommate situation, you're going to consider that each roommate. If one moved and the other 2 stayed, can they cover it by themselves? Or if 2 moved, can they cover it by themselves?
So your primary concern is that person can pay the rent. So what if somebody has a situation where maybe they don't make your 2.5 to 3 times?
Yeah, then we're going to look for someone who's going to co-sign on the account with them. If someone like an aunt or an uncle,
Or if
maybe
they
a mom and dad.
if they have significant savings, or
If they have significant liquid assets that they can pay us.
Okay.
Yeah, the goal is to get the rent every month on time.
okay,
So if you've got a history of, the landlord's got to serve you with a notice every month to get the rent, that'll be obvious too when they investigate your credit.
what if somebody has what if someone has great income but they have a tremendous amount of debt as well?
The thing.
How much breathing room are you looking for versus their monthly obligations? And
You're going to consider the stuff that is on their credit, and are they at that point where they might file bankruptcy and name you as one of their creditors,
Okay.
and hold the property up. So you're going to consider that. You got too much of that debt there, something's going to give. And when they file, if they go and file for Chapter 13, or they file for Chapter 7, then the bankruptcy trustee takes control of stuff and says, you can't evict them in state court because we're a federal bankruptcy court and we stay all evictions. And there's a legal process that you got to go through to get that stay lifted, because they can't live for free, and the bankruptcy trustee knows that. But it takes 2 or 3 months to get that resolved. And that 2 or 3 months, while that's being resolved, I'm not collecting any rent, and I'm therefore not collecting any fee for me, and my owner's paying the mortgage without the assistance of his income property. So it's a factor.
can you tell our viewers what types of documents you're looking for and how you're going to go about verifying the income they make? Obviously, anyone can tell you they make a certain amount of money.
Right.
Can you tell them what kind of stuff you're going to need to help you facilitate verifying
Right. We're
that
going
income?
to want to look at some pay stubs. If you've got pay stubs that from your job, you save those. It tells us. You can see from the pay stub what you're making an hour, and if you're saying that you're making $40 an hour and your pay stub says you're making 15, you're being fraudulent on the application. We're probably going to call you on that and disapprove you. A lot of people move to Vegas because they've been hired to work here, so they're not going to have pay stubs immediately. They're just moving into town, so they'll have a letter of employment that from a hotel that Mr. Tenant is getting hired a job here. He's going to, the annual salary is going to be $48,000 a year, and he signed a 2-year contract. That's a thing that will help us decide in your favor. But if you can't get a letter of employment and you don't have pay stubs, it's difficult. We got to verify your income. We got to verify that you'll have sufficient income to support the rent of the property.
Is there ever a situation where someone might be unemployed, where you would take them? Do they have to? How would they be able to offset that?
You know, if they're unemployed but they have substantial savings and they've got access to their 401k money. I mean, a lot of our tenants come to us and they're unemployed and they say, "Can you help me out with a letter to the 401k people that I need some of my retirement money to pay the rent? Otherwise, I'm going to be evicted," and we can help that.
Okay.
But we'll help them that way there. But usually, if they're unemployed, when they come there, they can't. You just don't make enough money most of the time on unemployment to afford a house.
Are there any other situations, like what if somebody's self-employed or they're 1099, or what kind of documents are you going to want to see there?
You know, self-employed, you're going to want to see. You're going to want to look at their tax returns,
Okay.
see what they're filing under taxes.
Bank statements,
Bank statements, stuff like that. That you could verify that they've got an income stream each month, and you'll see that money comes in, and if all of the money's going out, and there's a lot of red on that statement, it's probably someone.
What about like alimony or child support?
Yeah, we'll consider alimony and child
Okay.
support if you're receiving it, and also if you're having to pay it, and after you pay your legal obligation, do you still have enough money to pay your rent?
Okay, so what George is looking for is if you're claiming that you're making a certain amount of money, you have to be able to prove that to him. You can't just say you're making 10 grand a month and that, just trust me on that. Because unfortunately, George has dealt with too many people that weren't trustworthy. And who do you work for again?
I work for the owner, Dave.
Okay, so unfortunately, George works for the owner, and he's looking out for the owner's property because the
Right.
owner pays his bills.
Right.
So he's got to look at you. He's got to scrutinize you. He's got to verify everything that you tell him he makes because he's got to make sure he protects that owner.
Right.
Anything else?
Nope. I want to thank you for letting me participate in this, Dave. I think it's a good service. I mean, tenants are the customer, and we always try to accommodate the customer. And if you help them with what it is that they need, it makes the whole process go faster, makes it go better, and it makes the world spin easier.
George, we want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule. I know you're a very busy guy, and there's not a lot of people out there talking to tenants and helping them through this process. It's a lot easier for George to rent to you than to not rent to you, and he prefers to rent to you. But again, he works for the owner, and he's got to protect that owner.
Right.
So, I hope this series has been really helpful. And to recap, know your credit, know what's on your criminal and eviction background, know what your landlord's going to say about you, be able to verify all of your income. And, so if you're going to have your income, make sure you have all that documentation ready for George. He wants to rent to you. He hates vacancy. He wants people in his properties. And if he can rent it to you, that's what he'd much rather do.
Right.
So if you have any questions for me, my name is Dave Borden. You can reach me, dave@rentscreener.com. If you have questions for George, what's your email address?
Yeah, it's broker@blackbirdrealty.com, and be sure that you make it realty and not Blackbird Reality.
And I would just like to give a personal plug for George. George is a great property manager. He, if you're a landlord and you're watching this guy will take care of your property. So we really appreciate your time, George.
Thanks, Dave.
Have a great day.